Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Now, first off, before I get into my chat tonight, I want to say if I seem a little more tired than I usually am when I do this, it's because I'm doing it quite a bit later than I usually do it. It's almost 4 a.m. right now. And the reason for that is Mavis. Mavis has been constipated for a couple of days because of some meds she's been taking. And she decided right before I came over here to film that she was going to show me her impression of the fountain at the Bellagio, only with diarrhea, and begin to immediately spin around in the room and squirt diarrhea on everything. On the walls, up on the side of the couch, everywhere. By the time I picked her up and got her outside, she was almost done. But that took a little bit of cleaning to get taken care of, so now I'm a little late getting out here. But with that said, I want to move on and discuss my first topic tonight. And it's a question that came from a viewer that said, hey, you talk a lot about how you believe in personal responsibility. How just because we have a right to do something doesn't mean we're free from the responsibility or the repercussions of our actions. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. I'm going to apologize before I get started on my video today if I seem a little tired tonight. I'm doing this quite a bit later than usual. It is about 4 a.m. right now. I usually do this a couple of hours earlier or a few hours earlier. But Mavis has been constipated, not feeling very well, looking a little bloated, probably because of the meds she was on. But right as I started to leave the living room tonight to come across the parking lot over here to my studio, or parking lot, our driveway, I should say, she decided to say, hey, look at me, and then proceeded to do her imitation of the fountain at the Bellagio, only with diarrhea, and just unloaded around the house, trying to spin to get herself in a place. She shit all over the side of the couch and on the wall, on the carpet, on the TV stand, on the coffee table. It was not pretty, and it took a little while to get it cleaned up and get her cleaned up afterwards too. So I'm starting a little late, and I know that's way more information than anybody wants, but I'm going to ask you to bear with me a little bit. I just spent about 2.5 hours cleaning up dog diarrhea. So be easy on me tonight. Take that into account when you judge how little sense I make during this video. Not that I ever make sense any other time, but might even be less tonight. But I want to talk about a topic tonight that comes to me from a viewer who asked me a question in an email. They said that I have often said that I believe that just because someone has a right to do something, it doesn't mean they have a right to be free from the consequences. That we all have a certain level of responsibility when we exercise our rights. And if we do something wrong, negligent, whatever, it's on us. Like I have a right to state my opinion somewhere, but someone at the place I'm stating it, like if I'm doing it a private business, has the right to say, get out of my business. I had a right to say what I said. They have a right to hold me accountable for what I said and decide they don't want me there. If I go out and scream horrible things at someone and it starts a problem, I have a responsibility for that. Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should do something. And just because we have a right to do something doesn't mean we're free from the consequences. I've always been very straightforward in how I believe that to be true. Well, this person sent me a question saying, since I believe that, do I agree with some of the anti-gunners who are trying to make laws about safe storage of firearms, etc., that if I leave a gun out and a criminal gets that gun and commits a crime with it, should I be responsible for the crime because I didn't properly secure my gun? Well, first I want to deal with one aspect of this question here before I answer it in full. What do we consider properly secure? If I put something in the drawer of my nightstand, shut the door, leave my house, is that properly secured? It's in my home. Even if my door isn't locked, it's still in my home. No one has the right to violate the sanctity of my home, and I have a right to assume that my property in my home is safe. Because most people aren't criminals, and I have to think most people aren't going to go in my house and take something. Now, if someone decides to be a criminal and violates my home and steals my property, was that negligence, or is that a criminal act of an individual person? And should I hold any responsibility for that whatsoever? Well, in that case, I don't think a person should hold any responsibility for that. If you had a gun sitting on your nightstand, your door was even unlocked, someone comes in, rummages through your stuff, steals your gun, and then commits a crime with it, you're definitely not responsible for that crime because you did nothing to commit a crime. You didn't harm a person. If they harm a person with the gun, you shouldn't be responsible for that. Now, should you face some civil liability? That's a different question. And in that case, I think, no, you shouldn't face any civil liability whatsoever. That person committed a crime to obtain your firearm the second they entered your home, even if your doors weren't locked. It's no less a crime that they come into your property and take things that belong to you. It's not really much less of a crime than if they broke a window to get in. It's just a little bit, breaking and entering and burglary. Not much big of a difference there. There's some legal definition differences, but still, it's a crime. They committed a crime to get your property. So I don't think you should face criminal liability or civil liability in that case. You're the victim of a crime yourself. Now, what about if you leave your gun in your car and someone steals it? Well, I still think you have a right to believe that things inside your car should be safe. Maybe a little less so than your house, simply because of the nature of cars. You tend to take them into places that aren't where your house always is, so you don't know as much about your surroundings. But still, if you leave a gun in your glove box or your center console or under your seat and someone gets in your car, either breaks in, jimmies the lock, or you leave it unlocked and they get in your car willingly, take your property, once again, if they commit a crime with that, they harm someone, you should not be criminally responsible. And since I do believe, once again, you secured that gun in your vehicle, you placed it out of sight, you put it in a glove box, you put it under the seat, you have every right to believe no one is going to get in your car and look around for your property to steal. To do that, they are committing a crime. They're committing the crime before they even knew there was a gun to take. They just got lucky. So I don't think you should face any criminal charges for that. And once again, since you are the victim of a crime, I don't think you should face any civil liability for that. Now, where it gets a little more hazy is, let's say you leave a gun right in the seat of your car where people could see it. And therefore, you've enticed someone to commit a crime because there's a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow right there. Well, still, if they do that, if they have to break into the car to do that, you're the victim of a crime. They're stealing your property. You didn't have anything to do with the crime they commit. You should not be criminally liable. Now, should you face some civil liability here? Maybe a little more so. Maybe a little bit, because that's not a good decision. You made a bad decision, leaving your gun where it's visible, like leaving it on the dashboard, leaving it on the seat, and maybe even face more liability if you left the door unlocked. So in that case, I think somebody might be able to come to and say, make a good legal case that if you had locked your doors or just put your gun where someone couldn't see it, that guy wouldn't have ended up with it, most likely, and then these terrible things wouldn't have happened. But even in that case, even though I believe there might be a case to be made, I would still be a believer of, just because someone sees your property doesn't mean they have the right to take your property. Just like if you leave your lawnmower in your front yard doesn't mean someone has a right to come take it. So even then, I personally would not believe in any criminal liability or civil liability in that case, because you're the victim of a crime. Maybe you didn't make the best decision, so maybe there might be a case to be made in court. If I was on the jury, I probably would say, not your fault. Other people might say different. And I could understand where they might say it different there, because they might say, a little bit of bad decisions on your part, you got some responsibility for that. Now let's say you leave your gun on the back of a toilet in a bathroom, a public restroom, or it just falls out of your holster onto the sidewalk and you don't notice. Someone walks along, obtains your firearm, doesn't commit a crime to obtain your firearm, and then they go commit a crime with it. Then should you be legally and criminally responsible for that? No, because that's not a criminal act. That's negligence. Usually negligence brings you civil liability. Unless it's criminal negligence, which I don't think this is, because criminal negligence you have to have some idea that, hey, by doing this, I am facilitating this bad thing happening. If you lose your gun accidentally or you absent-mindedly leave it somewhere, you're not willingly being negligent to the point you know it can be a problem. You're just being absent-minded. So I don't think you should face criminal charges there. Liability, as far as civil liability is concerned, possibly. You made a big mistake. You left your gun laying behind. You dropped your gun on the street. Someone obtained that gun, didn't commit a crime to take it from you. They got it from you because you were negligent. Well, then, to a certain degree, if I was on that jury, I might be like, yeah, you left your gun in a stall. Someone got a hold of it, did something wrong with it. You should pay a fine, or you should be responsible for this or that or whatever. I don't think it should be something that ruins your life. And I definitely don't think it should border into the you're being punished for a crime territory, because I don't think that's, you didn't commit a crime, really. You were just negligent. But I do believe there should be some repercussions. And if you have to file bankruptcy because you get sued, that's something that should happen, I think. So I can kind of see into it there. Now let's take it one step further. And let's say you leave your gun on the sidewalk, you leave it on the back of a seat of a toilet. A small child goes in next or finds it on the street, injures themselves or someone else with it. Then should you face criminal charges? Yes, I think you should. That to me is criminal negligence. And there's only a variation there because of the circumstance. Now, should you actually be charged with, you murdered a child? No. Because like I said, once again, it was an accident, it was a mishap, it was absent-mindedness. So I guess I kind of don't really think you should face a criminal charge at all. I guess I kind of misspoke there. But it's more gray area here. So it's not cut and dry. Because if it was my kid, I know I would want you to pay dearly. Because it was your stupid mistake, your negligence, your stupidity that caused my child to die, to be in a situation where their life was lost. So yeah, in that case, I'd want you prosecuted. But I think actually most of the liability there should lean towards civil, even in that case, because you didn't intentionally kill a child. You didn't intentionally do something you thought could possibly lead to the death of a child. You at no time acted with malice or foresight or anything like that. It was just negligence. But since you were negligent, yes, someone obtained your firearm that shouldn't have your firearm, a child that should not have access to a firearm, and injured themselves or someone else with it because of your negligence. Yes, you're civilly liable. And that could be pretty expensive for you. That could ruin you. But in that case, you made a really stupid decision or did something really negligent that led to a disastrous conclusion, and you're responsible for that. So that, I could hold people responsible, but not someone stealing your property. But it's the same thing like if you leave a gun on your nightstand in your house and your 2-year-old nephew gets a hold of it. Once again, yes, you're responsible. You didn't commit what I would consider a crime of violence, but you committed a crime of negligence. So you should be held responsible for that. So it is a difficult topic. There's lots of things to consider about, to think about. Lots of gray area here. But in most cases, I'm going to say, in pretty much all cases, no, you're not criminally liable for something someone else does with your gun, especially when they obtain it illegally. You do sometimes suffer some civil liability if someone obtains your gun because of your negligence, not because of their criminal activity. That's when it gets to be a little bit more your fault. And whenever You, as the owner of a gun, allow that gun to get into the hands of a child and someone gets hurt, then I think you face a lot of responsibility there. So everyone, always be safe with your guns. Don't do stupid stuff with them. Don't be negligent. Try your best to not be absent-minded and do something stupid. And definitely, always keep your guns out of the hands of little ones, especially if they're not being supervised. All right, everybody, once again, I rambled a little long on that first topic. Go figure that I would ramble. I ramble, especially when I'm tired. I ramble, just like I'm rambling now. And because of that, I went a little long. So I'm going to go ahead and end the show today, and I want to end with our pet rescue of the day. And today we have Riley. And Riley is brought to us by Paul Anthony Hernandez. You might remember him. He's the Hispanic gentleman we featured in Viewer EDC recently, where I said, well, at least he hasn't put spinner caps on his carry gun. And it looks like he has not put spinner caps on Riley yet either, not even a sombrero. But he hasn't had Riley very long, apparently. Riley's very young, only 2 months old, I believe he was saying. Did he say it was 2 months old? No, he's only had her 2 months. She's a little older than that. But she was born into one house. They couldn't take care of her. She went to another house. They couldn't keep her. So this is her third home, but hopefully it's her forever home. And I do believe it is. And since she is now, I guess, technically a little Hispanic lady, I wonder if she gets to have a quinceanera. And what age do you do a quinceanera for a dog? It can't be it's got to be just like 6 months or something. She's got to have her quinceanera so she can have a really gaudy dress and go out and dance with a bunch of pervert handsy uncles and get hit on. So I don't know when that would be, but I would love to see the pictures, just to say. But Riley, he says, is an attention hog, although he didn't say hog. He said something a little more offensive to the poor little girl. But he said she's also kind of skittish and afraid of things because she's young. That's probably also a little bit because she's been in so many houses. Once she's used to this is my forever home and she knows you're all her pack, she'll start to get over that. But I just wanted to say congratulations to Riley for finding her forever home, even though it took a couple of tries. And I want to say thanks to Paul Anthony Hernandez for being the person who gave Riley a forever home. I hope you two are very happy together for years to come. And like I said, I want to see those quinceanera pictures. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, I just want to sign off as usual by saying, as far as the state of the world today is concerned, it is what it is. It could be a lot worse, but it could still be better. And if we as a gun community come together and ignore the fearmongers, the profiteers, the fake activists, the people who serve the industry and the big gun organizations and strive to make profit, not progress, if we start ignoring those people and doing what's right and fight smart and hard for those rights in this country, what things will be for people who value the Second Amendment and freedom in general in the very near future is better.